All right, welcome to Tulsiology. My name is Dave. Thanks for watching this channel. Please, if you can remember to subscribe to the channel. This channel is going to be around for a while. I have built another channel to basically discuss things that aren't related to Tulsi Gabbard. You can check that out. It's called the Real Issue Observer. I ask you if you want to subscribe to that. You can. And I appreciate your support over here as well. Tulsi Gabbard could have won this election running as a third-party candidate. She is well on her way to 1 million Twitter followers, and those are the most fervent, decent people that you're going to meet. I choose those two words because fervent. People who support Tulsi Gabbard understand that it's not just about issues, although predominantly we support Tulsi Gabbard because of issues. There's a certain level of civility and decorum and wanting to get things done for the American people. And you know this because what Tulsi has been doing in the last days of her stint as a congresswoman. I wish she had run again, but she, I think, has bigger plans, and I'm hoping those plans include a presidential run in 2024. It's crazy that we have to talk about 2024 when we've got this election between two guys that are highly unfavorable when it comes to the American people, one of whom may not be able to function as the president of the United States. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. Talking about Joe Biden. So much so that Nancy Pelosi is trying to sort of emphasize the 25th Amendment just in case Biden gets elected, and or supposedly if Trump gets elected too. But it's a contingency plan, and it's based on if Biden can't serve, obviously, Kamala Super Cop gets to be the president of the United States. And I mean, to lose a debate to Mike Pence and the way she lost, she got decimated by Mike Pence in that debate. She just looked as though she was bothered by anyone approaching her with a question, which is not, we need a leader like Tulsi Gabbard who can look at people on the left and people on the right and see their grievances and understand their grievances, rather than have this culture where when somebody from the left brings up a point, somebody on the right just calls them a socialist. Or whether somebody on the right, for instance, says, hey, I don't think ballot harvesting is a cool thing. And Democrats do ballot harvesting, and maybe Republicans did it in the past as well. Tulsi Gabbard has stuck to her guns on this. You know, she was called out by AOC of all people because, you know, this was a Project Veritas video and they supposedly debunked it, and then Veritas doubled down. And I don't think anything got debunked, whether you like Veritas or not. Investigative journalism, when you have footage and you see a ballot and you see money exchanged, and I don't know. Oh, it was all staged. No, I don't think it was staged. I think this stuff is going on. I think it's predominantly going to affect Donald Trump obviously more than Joe Biden. Where are they going to harvest ballots? See, they go into inner cities where people are poor and desperate, and they go, and these people, they don't even know who their vote, what they're doing. Somebody approaches them with money and says, hey, do this and we'll give you money. And people do it. I would probably do it if I were in those circumstances. So people are definitely not thrilled with the choices before them. And so much so that people are still approaching me saying, Dave, what about Jesse Ventura in California? Okay, get him on the ballot in one state, write him in. California is going to go Joe Biden, which is just depressing. California is a failed state. You want to talk about failed states? I know everybody says the United States is a failed state. Well, no, not every state is a failed state. And I hate to be like the bearer of obvious news, but it tends to be heavily blue neoliberal states that are in peril and are a wreck. New York City right now, ruled by an authoritarian, is an absolute disaster. See, this is what turned me off about some of the Green Party language, is it mirrored some of the neoliberal Democrat language, and it embodies authoritarianism. There's no, I know there's a governing board, a ruling board, and all these things that they want to do, but to me, even that ruling board is still an authoritarian group, and groupthink is going to take hold, and democracy, I think, gets diminished. I think you need like a more libertarian approach to that. And it's not, look, they're on the ballot in 25 states, and I don't think they have any impact. And at this late stage, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, it would have to be something cataclysmic that would make people write in somebody, or, want to try to, you can't draft anybody this late. It's impossible. I don't care if people want to write in Tulsi Gabbard's name as a protest. Full disclosure, I'm either voting for Jorgensen or Trump. And if you're mad about the Trump thing, well, I look at the whole Biden thing, especially after you hear a rant from Keith Olbermann. I don't know if you heard that. That was insanity. And that's what they represent. I've never heard anybody on the right talk like that. Like, we need to expunge, we need to remove people from society. That's nuts. I may disagree with my leftist buddy, because I may think there's no cure for global warming, because I just don't think there is. I know that Bill Gates wants to seed the atmosphere and the stratosphere with potassium chloride. That's what they're going to do. And I tell you what, it's doomsday. It's lights out if we start messing. It's the same thing that we're doing with vaccines and all that other stuff. And it makes me think that there's an ulterior motive to everything that we're watching right now. And if that sounds conspiratorial, this year, I'm sorry, this year should have thrown your prior assumptions out the window. Should have just completely, changed your perspective on, it's not left versus right. It's the people versus the ruling class. That's what it is. Whether it's right authoritarianism or left authoritarianism, it's all bad. And we've seen right authoritarianism with George H.W. Bush and his son. Definitely, you would have had it if Mitt Romney were the president. You had it under Obama. We've had it. Trump, yeah, he's got some authoritarian enzymes in him. And I'm not, that's why I'm saying Jorgensen would be like an out. And after the first debate, I was like, I'm just going to vote for Jorgensen. I don't want to be part of this. But then I look at who's got a better chance of winning, and who's got an opportunity maybe to kind of stop this neoliberal march to war. And that's why, again, if Tulsi Gabbard had run as some kind of an independent, and she started early, and she had nothing to do this, what I'm talking about is even before she announced she was going to run for president, she changes her party affiliation to independent. She's got 2 years left. I know that's like a smack in the face to her constituents. Oh, I thought she was a Democrat. Well, other politicians have done it. Not Thomas Massey, the other guy, the other libertarian guy, who Justin Amash. He either went L or I don't know what he did, but he's done too. So I would have done that, and I would have said, look, I understand the Democratic Party doesn't like me. I'm running for president, and I'm starting this movement. Now, the only problem with that is Tulsi Gabbard got the visibility that she got by being a Democrat and running in the primary and facing off against these just disastrous candidates, one after another, whether it was Tim Ryan or Kamala Harris, or she was about to get Elizabeth Warren before they went to commercial break. So much damage she did in so little time. People saw authenticity. They saw somebody calling out someone else using facts and logic and statistics. That drove them absolutely crazy. And again, talking about the word expunged, all right, I'm surprised Oberman didn't add Tulsi Gabbard's name to that list. And again, she's kind of like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or whatever right now. Is it Robert Kennedy? I'll just say Robert Kennedy Jr. She is vilified in her own party because of the stands that she takes. The Katzenberg crew over at TYT, they are funded by an oligarch. They are no better than any of the major news networks. People say, Dave, what fact-checking organizations are good? Snopes? Nope. PolitiFact? Nope. Snopes was a joke when it started, all right? And they just use Google. That's what they do. They fact-check using Google. And then the Poynter Institute, which you can go look them up, Bill and Melinda Gates. You really want, they're funding it. Google has interests in Poynter. Bill Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. Poynter takes money from all of those institutions, and then they go out there and they say, we're PolitiFact. So their agenda is pure neoliberal, big pharma, big military industrial complex, all of that. And every time you see it, mostly false, mostly this, mostly that. It's garbage. It's propaganda. All right. And they use this propaganda against Tulsi Gabbard early on. She would have done herself a big favor. And I'm not telling her what to do with her life because she got the visibility by being a Democrat. But in the future, if she runs as a Democrat, it's a suicide mission. It's not going anywhere. If she runs as an outsider, a true independent, because you really can't put her in a category because she's progressive at times, she can be conservative at times, she can be a hawk on terrorism, but she doesn't want endless war. And I think she wants only conflict when it's absolutely necessary and when our vital national interests are at stake. And I'm okay with that. I'm not necessarily okay with fighting terrorism just for fighting it and saying we're going to stay in Afghanistan for 100 years because it hasn't worked. It's not working. It's like putting a mask on. It's not working. It's not working. I'm sorry I threw that in there, but I had to. Just not working. I know you keep saying social distance. It's not working. That is if you don't like cases, all right? And I'm sorry to veer into COVID, and a lot of people disagree with me on that. Tulsi and I disagree on that, and I'm fine with it. She does recognize, though, that tyranny, she has more recently said she doesn't like what some of these governors are doing. These provisions are nuts. You'd be better off to isolate people who are more at risk, and we're not doing that. We're just throwing a net over everybody and saying, yep, that's what we're going to do. So yeah, my view, this whole video basically is about how Tulsi Gabbard, especially considering all the people right now who are politically homeless, who are looking for anybody as an outsider, who could speak in complete sentences, who's not bombastic, who's not throwing bombs out there just to be entertaining, all right? Just to be the showman, all right? Tulsi Gabbard is a humble servant, much different. She can be outspoken. She can also be quiet and introspective. Her campaign was a demonstration of all of these different things at work. People saw sincerity, authenticity, and she was called all kinds of crazy names. You know, Assad toady, doesn't understand foreign policy, can't call Assad a dictator, blah, blah, blah. You know, all of these things where the neoliberal NPR perspective on foreign policy is we just keep people all over the world, stationed all over the world. We basically do a neoliberal foreign policy because we have to keep certain countries in check. And, you know, we have to keep our military contractors happy and so forth because, you know, some of these, I'm sure, some of these foundations or some of these entities like an NPR or PBS, they're now getting money from military contractors. That's how crazy. Everybody thought, oh, if I'm a lefty, I'm anti-war. Nope, nope. You're going to find more support on the right and over in the Libertarian Party. The Green Party pays it some, some notice, but the real anti-war people are libertarians and conservatives, I think, who've had enough, who've said, you know what, this isn't foreign policy. This is just endless intervention, and it needs to end. And I think Tulsi Gabbard, on day one would have been calling people and saying, hey, this is unacceptable. We're paring this down immediately. We're going to have a big meeting, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. People say, well, she wouldn't be able to, to stand up to the generals and the people who actually do this stuff at the Pentagon, not just the generals, but people within the Pentagon who've been career military moles, basically, who are running the government, who are telling Trump what to do. And Trump pushes back, and Trump goes out there and grabs a microphone and says, oh, these generals, they'd go to war forever if it weren't for me. Tulsi Gabbard would probably do that tenfold if she got out there. And guess what? People would be way more sympathetic to her. The people of the country would be. The news media would become unhinged. But so what? That's the kind of president we need. And I'm of a firm belief that Tulsi Gabbard would have been she could have split this vote easily in thirds, where she got like 35% and won the election. Easily. Democrats would have gone to her. Disaffected or disappointed Trumpers, or Trumpers who want a better tone. I know tone, even Trump made fun of that at one point, but there are a lot of people that, turn on the TV and say, wouldn't it be cool if we had a president who, demonstrated a little bit of diplomacy and a little restraint with vocabulary, and maybe worked more and tweeted less, or whatever it is that you want to throw at Donald Trump. Tulsi would have been the cure. Tulsi would have been the cure to that. And why Tulsi? Because, again, all the other candidates really stunk who ran as Democrats. And nobody really challenged Trump on the other side, other than just to say, oh, I'm running against Trump, like Bill Weld. And it's just for PR. Like, I want to get on TV for a couple of weeks. So in any event, it's clear, as somebody who still supports Tulsi Gabbard and might even write her name in. Again, someone asked me, it's either going to be Jorgensen or Trump, because I don't think my vote will count if I vote for Tulsi. And I'd like to see a movement start, no matter who wins this election. If Biden wins this election, I think you're going to see massive grassroots organizing where both the left and the right come together and figure out a way to get a people's candidate on the ballot, and somebody who embodies really what I would call mainstream American thought and isn't a kook lefty. See, this people, is it the People's Party? That thing kind of irritates me, because it just seems like another version of the Green Party. You want to bring in conservatives. You want to bring in libertarians. You want to bring in people who aren't concerned about the culture war, in the sense that they understand that people aren't going to agree on certain things like abortion or how many genders there are and so forth, which is just mind-blowing, but I'm not going to go there, because it just shows you where we're at in 2020. We need to talk about kitchen table, bread and butter, financial issues. Those are the things that affect people's lives the most. So that's where I think we need to go with all of this stuff. And Tulsi Gabbard could be at the forefront right after this election is over, right after her stint in Congress is done. You may see her just launch right into action. And her organization would be something to donate to help fund whatever she has planned. And I'd be first in line to give some money over to Tulsi Gabbard, because I understand it's going to be very hard to beat this machine. This machine is very entrenched. One thing Trump represents it's like a little cog in the gear wheel of the machine, and they want Trump out of there so they can go full, what they did I'm sorry, Obama was a disaster. Bush was a disaster. So you've had 16 years of disaster for our country. Trump comes along, and I think he's better than both of those two presidents. I really do. But it wasn't, or it isn't enough right now for what people are going through, I think, to just convince people, hey, we should go for Trump. I think a lot of people will go for Trump just so Biden doesn't get in. And that's actually a laudable conclusion. It's a laudable vote. I don't disagree with it. I completely understand it. The vote I can't comprehend is Biden. I cannot comprehend anybody voting for Joe Biden right now. It doesn't, from just the practical standpoint where the guy can't even think. He literally can't think for himself. And everything is so scripted, and he might even be hopped up on something, especially at that last debate. He's in his bunker most of the time. The lid gets put on the campaign at like 9 a.m. This is a joke, folks. Tulsi Gabbard would have been crisscrossing the country and physically fit, able to do these things, able to serve her country, able to campaign at the same time. It's just, and we have to be the ones. It's like when Ross Perot ran for president. He had money and he could get on TV, but it was a populist uprising of people who said, this guy makes sense to me. All right. One of his main issues was with trade and NAFTA and all the things that we were doing that, again, he talked about the giant sucking sound. That was your wallet being, emptied out. And we're still kind of there, but, we could go to a better place when it comes to rhetoric. And I think Tulsi Gabbard has a great handle on that. And she has opinions on everything, and she's eloquent and articulate, and she would make the best first woman president, by the way, for you bean counters, you neoliberals who have to have race, gender, and merit can go out the window. You need to have those boxes all checked off. Well, she checks every damn box there is, but you guys ignored her, and now we have two staunch neoliberals, by the way, who, for you progressives, they're not going to ban fracking. That's funny. And even though back in the debates, you've got recordings of both of them saying, oh, I'm totally against fracking. Okay. It's all a joke, people. It's all a dog and pony show. In any event, thanks for watching the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell if you want notifications on new videos. And I need your help over on Patreon. You can sign up for just $1 a month if you'd like to talk to me and send me messages, and maybe I'll post a thread that's interesting, or I'll just talk about, stuff. On that platform, I tend to have most of my stuff going on with the music channel, and a secondary Patreon account, unfortunately, is a little difficult to do. So just if you want to help support the channel, Patreon is the best way to do it. You could also do PayPal, and the email for PayPal donations is in the description of this channel. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.